The air crackled with tension as Jasmine Crockett stood at the podium, her voice trembling with a mix of determination and defiance, staring down the seasoned Senator John Kennedy across the hearing room. "You think you can silence me with your sharp tongue?" she declared, her words slicing through the murmurs of the crowd like a thunderclap, setting the stage for a showdown no one saw coming. It was a moment that would define her career, or break it, and the weight of it pressed down on her shoulders like a storm cloud ready to burst. Jasmine, a rising star in Congress, had spent years fighting for her constituents, her heart fueled by the struggles of her community back in Texas. John Kennedy, with his decades of political savvy and a reputation for biting wit, was a formidable opponent, a man whose words could dismantle an argument with surgical precision. This wasn't just a debate. It was personal, a clash of ideals and wills that would test her resolve to its core. Jasmine had prepared for weeks, poring over policy briefs late into the night, her eyes bleary, but her spirit unbroken. She came from a family that knew hardship. Her mother, a single parent who worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table, her grandmother, a civil rights activist who taught her that silence was never an option. That legacy burned in her chest as she faced Kennedy, determined to challenge his dismissive stance on a bill that could lift thousands out of poverty. She began her argument with passion, citing statistics and personal stories, her voice rising with every point. The room leaned in, captivated by her fervor, but Kennedy sat back, his expression unreadable, a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. When she finished, the silence was deafening, until he leaned forward, adjusting his glasses with a slow, deliberate motion, and unleashed a clapback that hit like a freight train. "Well, Representative Crockett," Kennedy drawled, his southern accent thick with sarcasm, "that was a fine speech, but it sounds like you're trying to teach a master class with a beginner's handbook." The room erupted in gasps and laughter, and Jasmine felt the heat rush to her face, her confidence wavering under the sting of his words. He went on, dismantling her points with a mix of humor and logic, painting her as naive and unprepared. The blow was public, humiliating, and for a moment, she froze, her mind racing back to every doubt she'd ever had about stepping into this arena. Tears prickled at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them back, remembering her grandmother's voice. "You fall, you get up. That's how we win." The challenge wasn't just his rebuttal, it was the fear that she might not be enough, that her dreams were too big for her reality. As the hearing adjourned, Jasmine retreated to a quiet corner, her hands shaking as she clutched her notes. She replayed Kennedy's words in her mind, each one a dagger to her pride, but beneath the hurt, a fire began to smolder. She called her mother that night, her voice cracking as she confessed her defeat. "Baby," her mother said softly, "you didn't lose today. You showed up. That's more than most can say." Those words were a lifeline, pulling her out of the spiral of self-doubt. The next day, she sought advice from a mentor, an older congresswoman who had faced her own battles with Kennedy. "He's good," the mentor admitted, "but he's not invincible. Study him, find his weakness, and don't let him see you sweat." Armed with this guidance, Jasmine dove into research, analyzing Kennedy's past debates, noting his reliance on humor to mask weaker arguments. The rematch came a week later, during a televised committee meeting. Jasmine had rehearsed her response, her nerves tempered by a newfound resolve. When Kennedy launched into another round of sharp-witted jabs, she was ready. "Senator," she interjected calmly, "your humor's entertaining, but it doesn't change the facts. Let's talk numbers. Your own voting record shows you've opposed similar bills 3 times in the last decade." The room fell silent, the shift palpable. She pressed on, weaving in personal stories of her constituents, her voice steady and powerful. Kennedy faltered, his usual confidence shaken as she turned his own tactics against him, exposing gaps in his logic, with a grace that surprised even herself. The clapback she delivered wasn't just a rebuttal. It was a reclaiming of her voice, a testament to her growth. The aftermath was electric. Social media buzzed with clips of the exchange, with hashtags like Crockett Clapback trending nationwide. Supporters flooded her inbox with messages of pride, while critics grudgingly acknowledged her resilience. But the real victory was internal. Jasmine sat alone that night, reflecting on the journey. She'd faced humiliation, doubt, and the weight of expectation, yet she'd emerged stronger, her spirit tempered like steel in a forge. The next day, she met Kennedy in the hallway, and to her surprise, he offered a nod of respect. "You've got guts, kid," he said gruffly. It wasn't an apology, but it was enough, a sign that she'd earned her place at the table. By the end of the month, Jasmine introduced a revised version of the bill, bolstered by bipartisan support she'd quietly garnered in the wake of her triumph. The vote passed narrowly, a victory she dedicated to her mother and grandmother, whose sacrifices had paved her path. As she stood before the cameras, her eyes shone with unshed tears of joy. "This isn't just my win," she said, her voice carrying the weight of her journey. "It's for everyone who's ever been told they're not ready. You are. Keep fighting." The message resonated, inspiring a new generation to rise, proving that even the sharpest clapback can't dim a spirit determined to soar. Her story, born from a moment of vulnerability, became a beacon of hope, a reminder that resilience, not perfection, is the true measure of strength.